All right, hello everybody, hello. Welcome. This is Ricky Mike, coach of Virginia Big Tennis, and we are here for a quick draft recap of a new league where we decided to join uh, for this new season. I guess we are gonna be joining the Seoul Dew Association, or I guess we're gonna say we're gonna be making our return to the Seoul Dew Association (SDA). After we did win the last time that we played here in Sword and Shield, the Sword Division, maybe last year, 2 years ago, I don't remember exactly. Anyways, this time we are gonna be placed on the Latios division, which is an upload required, so we will be uploading all of our games. Yay! And yeah, contrary to what it may seem here, we are not going to be playing on Sword and Shield this time. I'm just here because this is the only game I can hang out with my buddy Victini here. We are actually going to be playing Scarlet and Violet. Yes, I understand that this is way past the release of Pokemon Champions. Unfortunately, Pokemon Champions doesn't have a way to play 6v6 singles, and I really don't feel like playing on Showdown. So, on that note, I have played in a couple of leagues on Champions for VGC. I have my feelings about that. I don't hate it, but I also don't love it. But as I was thinking about it, just because a new game releases doesn't mean that the old game has died, right? So Scarlet Violet is still perfectly fine. It's a still perfectly fine game to play, and I realized that there's actually quite a lot of stuff that I haven't used on that game. So my objective, choosing to join this season, is to try to use some Pokemon that I haven't had the chance to use, at least not on Wi-Fi. Because that'll be fun. I do have a large collection of Pokemon that I would like to use, and what better way to do it than on draft? The best way to play competitive Pokemon, in my opinion. Anyways, this is the second season, I guess, of Latios. I believe I didn't play during the last season. I was just taking a break from SDA, but we're back. We're rejuvenated and we're ready to go. So, anyways, this, like I said, I'm gonna show you all my team, the team that I ended up drafting here. Again, my number one objective is to draft a lot of Pokemon that I haven't used before. However, I will still try to draft a good team because I'm just too competitive not to. That being said, there were two options, two Pokemons on the first round that I wanted to try. So with that being said, I'm gonna show you who I got first. But for that, I'm gonna need to go get it from a different game. I'll be right back. Yeah, that's right. Our first round pick is gonna be the captain for this season of the Virginia Big Tennis, no other than the mythical Pokemon itself, good old Keldeo. And yes, I know the first thing that you're thinking about is like, what in the world are you talking about? Keldeo is not a tier 1 peak Pokemon. or a round 1 Pokemon in any sense of way, at least not on a regular draft. And you will be right, probably not. However, this is not regular Keldeo. This is, matter of fact, Terra Keldeo. Um, we decided to go with this because I have been wanting to use this team for the longest time. I usually, whenever I wanna get it, I usually try to save it for the second round, and it always gets taken. So I wasn't gonna take the chance this time. I just wanna grab it and go with it. I know that it's not the best Pokemon by itself, and even with Terra, perhaps it's not the best. However, there has been a lot of, there has been a lot of hype about this Pokemon, particularly on the Showdown draft community. Granted, a lot of things are banned from Terra and higher tiers on it. And there were very Terra Captains on this draft, but I haven't used Terra Caldeo. I haven't been wanting to use it for the longest time. So we are gonna go ahead and do that because, like I said, I'm trying to have fun this season. Anyways, what does Keldeo gives me? Keldeo actually gives me quite a few things. It gives me a very good initial speed tier with 108, which is faster than most things. Granted, the golden standard for this generation, I think, is base 110, but, it is what it is with that. I get a very strong special attacker, very strong wall breaker on the special side that can hit the physical side with Secret Sword, of course. I do get setup opportunities with Calm Mind, and I do get reliable priority with Vacuum Wave, and also good momentum with Flip Turn. So, this Pokemon seems pretty cool. It has all the tools of what I'm looking for, what I enjoy on a Pokemon, being able to keep momentum, being able to break, and like I said, with Terra, it becomes a significantly higher tier Pokemon in my opinion. This Pokemon, I have faced it a couple times. Like I said, I never used it before, but I have faced it a couple times in both Showdown and Wi-Fi, and I will tell you, it is terrifying to be on the other end of this thing when Terra is available to it. Because offensively, it can destroy you with Terra Water or Terra Fighting, or defensively, it can actually use the Terra defensively very well to set up Calm Minds and just start demolishing your team. So anyways, very happy to be using Keldeo this season. I'm sure that he's going to be a great captain for the team. The nickname is going to be Tanjiro, the water swordsman itself, and is going to be holding the once well trained title because he was well trained, I guess. Anyways, Pokemon number 2, we're gonna go ahead and grab a Pokemon that I haven't drafted in a while. I did draft this in Wi-Fi at the very beginning of the generation, Tinglu. But ever since his shiny has been released, this is my French shiny Tinglu, and yeah, fun stuff. I did recently use it on the Smogon Summer Seasonal Draft, and it did awesomely well for us. Took us all the way down to the bracket after 10 Swiss rounds. I'm not a big fan of Tinglu in the sense that it's very passive, because it does have, it doesn't have ways to keep momentum like other walls like Sabres, for example. However, it is a very incredibly good wall nonetheless. It does have access to both Stealth Rocks and Spikes, which is fantastic. It does have access to a very reliably damaging move on Ruination when it hits. Airquake Staff is always good, of course. It's incredibly bulky. And it does give me access to Whirlwind, which is good for, not letting it be some setup fodder. So, yeah. And mostly I just wanted to use the shiny, to be honest with you. So, yeah, that's going to be a second round pick. Moving on, Pokemon number 3 is going to be Asuka, the Empress of Tomorrow herself, the Orgapon cornerstone on this occasion. I have drafted this Pokemon before, and I enjoy it a lot more with Terra. However, this Pokemon just looked really good paired with the other two on my team, so I decided to go with it. I was always gonna, like I mentioned before, the gold standard for speed tiers this generation is 110 in my opinion. So we are grabbing the best Orgapon that I could grab. I really didn't want to grab Wellspring, although I'm pretty sure it was grabbed already, but also it is much more expensive than this thing. This thing has one of the best things on the game, which is a 100% accurate rock physical move. And yeah, fun stuff. I recently played on a different league where my opponent swept me with this damn thing with just a simple Swords Dance, Horn Leech set, which reminds me how much I love this thing, how annoying it can be. This is the one exception, or one of the biggest exception that I had drafted. Well, I only drafted it once, I believe, and it was with Terra, so it was a very much different Pokemon. Anyways, it gives me more access to spikes, which is fantastic. I love spikes. It gives me access to knockoff for the first time on my team right now, because my Darkrai doesn't get it, so that's also fantastic. The damage boost that Cornerstone gets with the mass is, similar to a Life Orb, and it does get sturdy, which means a built-in Focus Sash, which is always threatening, especially if you're able to maintain, hazard control. So yeah, very happy with this little girl. Of course, gets U-turn because I do have to get my momentum. The mark is gonna be the partner mark, so this is gonna be Asuka, the reliable partner. Pokemon number 4 is going to be a Pokemon that I haven't drafted since Generation 8, which I'm very excited. We're gonna grab Hydran. Because I need a fire type and a steel type. Obviously I need a fire resist, fairy resist, because I do have a Team Blue and a hiding type. I was debating between this and Metagross. I decided to go with this because Metagross got a snipe, but I don't think anybody's gonna say that Hydran is a bad consolation prize. The speed tier, I'm starting to fill out that gap in between speed tiers between Team Blue and the one OA from Keldeo, so that helps. I believe this is 77. It can be fast, it can be very special defensive, so it guys gives me a lot of versatility. It gives access to Magma Storm, Anton, which is a very good for breaking stall or even balance sometimes. It does give me access to both two very good abilities in Flash Fire and Flame Body, so that's also good. I like to punish physical attackers for trying to U-turn Spiral on me, which they could probably do given that my last 2 picks are either weak or neutral to U-turn. Outside of that, I get more Stealth Rocks, which is fantastic, and some fun stuff that you can do with this Pokemon. Can be very straightforward, but it can also be very offensive. Very unpredictable. That's one thing I very much like about this thing. I'm not too worried about the double earthquake weakness. Hydran has proven for 6 generations now that, well, 5 generations now that it doesn't care about the double weakness to ground. So yeah. Anyways, since Hydran has been along since Gen 4 and proved to be great, we're gonna have Mizukage the tried and true for this season. Number 5 is gonna go to Enamorus Incarnate, which is another Pokemon that I have drafted quite a bit actually, but it's been a while since I drafted it, so I think it is time. Admittedly, like I said, I'm trying to draft a team with a bunch of Pokemon that I haven't used before or haven't used a lot, but I'm still trying to draft a good team. So I really needed a fighting resist. My second, third, and fourth choices or rounds were fighting weak. I also wanted a strong, good fairy, and also I enjoy speed. Yeah, I get it. This is very close to the 108 from Keldeo at 106, but I don't think anybody's ever gonna say that Enamorus is a bad Pokemon. It doesn't get momentum, which is unfortunate, but it gives, in exchange, it gives me a lot of versatility, being able to run both physical and special. With the superpower, contrary set being particularly scary for my opponents, but also the Moonblast from this thing hit incredibly hard. So yeah, fun stuff. It is weak to rocks, which I'm not a fan of, but that's always gonna be a fight with your flying types, right? So that being said, so it's gonna be on me, I guess, to make sure that I can control the hazards. But that being said, this thing is probably one of the top tiers Pokemon on my draft. Unfortunately, I didn't draft it as a Terra Captain because I wasn't able to, without sacrificing Keldeo being my Terra Captain, my primary Terra Captain, but that is okay. Anyways, this is gonna be Frigga from the Distant Past with the Hisui ribbon, and yeah, happy to have her back. Up next, we are gonna have another Pokemon that I haven't used before, or at least I don't think I have used. Mesrip. This is similar to Keldeo. The Wi-Fi Showdown community seems to love this thing. They seem to think that this thing is the better of the Lake Trio. I don't think to agree on that. I do think that Yuxi is better. However, I have used both Yuxi and Aesolve before. I have won championships with both of them before, so I figure I will give Mestrip a try. They seem to enjoy Mestrip because it's a good combination because of, you know, some offense from Mr. Aesolve, but also some very much defense from Mr. Yuxi. So yeah, we're gonna give this a shot. Also, another thing that they love to do with this thing is to make it a Terra Captain, and what you know, I need another Terra Captain at least, so we're gonna go with Terra Mestrip. I was told that this thing can be a very underrated threat with the Terra, so we're gonna grab it. Yeah, I get more access to Stealth Rocks, which is fantastic. I get another ground immunity that is not weak to Stealth Rocks, which is also great. We get more knockoff, fantastic, always good to have knockoff. We get setup opportunities with both Mystical Power, Calm Mind. I believe it may get Cosmic Power too. I could be wrong. It may not get it this generation. And with Terastallization, you know, it can be threatening from both sides actually, because I think it may get Bulk Cap. So, you know, versatility, the name of the game, right? Versatility. So, yeah, this is going to be our secondary Terra Captain for the season. Hopefully she'll do great. The nickname is going to be Uravity, which, if you don't know, is Ochako, from the hero name from Ochako in My Hero Academia, because, you know, no gravity. This thing is levitating. As far as the ribbon, we're going to give it the Smile ribbon, and this is going to be Uravity, the once cheery. Okay, so for the next pick, I actually had to be... go out of my #1 rule and draft Pokemon that I had drafted a lot. And that's going to be Regieleki. The main reason why I drafted this is because Hazard's Control. People were taking Hazard's Control left and right. This season is having 14 coaches, so there were a lot of picks in between us, right? I didn't get either of the wheels. So... you know, I believe there was a Pokemon that I wanted that got sniped right before my picks that have access to Rapid Spin, so I decided to, you know, just grab the Pokemon that is guaranteed to pretty much spin unless you have a ground type. But, you know, there are dynamics to that, right? This thing, if you try to bring a Ghost type to a spin block, then I can just smack you with a Thunderbolt or a Ball Switch. And if you bring your ground type to wall this, then I guarantee getting the Rapid Spin off. So Regieleki can be quite threatening, can be quite better still in my opinion. It's not going to sweep any things without Terra, but, you know, it's still very much utility. It does get access to both Screams, does get access to Explosion, Rapid Spin as I mentioned, and some other fun options that I can utilize to my advantage. It's also nice to have the fastest speed on the game, right? I very much enjoy having the fastest thing guarantee on the field. So, yeah, this thing is... I'm hoping this thing will help me put my Hazard Control game to good use here. And yeah, there's not much to say. Like I said, I have played with Regieleki several times before. Sometimes he has done great, sometimes he hasn't. It is what it is. This time we are bringing our non-shiny version, Koro Sensei himself, Regieleki, which is going to have the rank master because it is a teacher. If you don't get the reference, look up Assassination Classroom. Anyways, that's going to be not. Now, for this pick, we're gonna have Handsome Squidward itself, Tentacruel. I did mention that before I picked Regieleki, my original pick got a snipe. Well, this was my actual original pick. And then, because, you know, I was counting on this thing giving me some key resistances, mostly to water, because my water type is not necessarily water resist. However, I got a snipe right before I pick. I panic, I pick Regieleki, but I was able to work with the other coach, shout out to Inkong, to trade it after the draft. So we're gonna end up with Squidward himself on our team, which I honestly believe is the glue that keeps this team, that puts this team together. because it gives me more access to rapid spin, it gives me a rounded poison, it gives me a water resist, that is an actual water resist, it gives me access to more knockoff and flip turn, and you know, can poison things. So yeah, I'm very happy to get this guy. I haven't drafted it in a while, although I have drafted it before, and it has always been reliable, so pretty straightforward. As far as the mark, we are gonna give it the gorgeous mark because it is handsome Squidward after all. And yeah, that's gonna be Tentacruel. Now, as we're getting closer to the end of the draft, at least for me, I needed a physical breaker. There weren't a lot of options and I didn't have a lot of points, so I decided to go with the good old, one of my favorite Pokemon, especially in his shiny form, Haxorus itself, Darth Vader. Because, you know, it's a good and bad Pokemon at the same time. It is very strong, and Mold Breaker is a very niche ability, but good for this kind of Pokemon because, you know, it ignores things like Unaware. However, it's very straightforward, and I have drafted it a couple times before. Sometimes, the majority of the time, it's not nearly as good as you would expect it to be. That being said, it covers a lot of things that my team needed, which number one was a Dragon type, so now I have my Dragon Fairy Steel Core, which is great. Yeah, I also needed something on the 90s speed tier, and this thing gives me, what is it, 97, I believe, which is fantastic. And, you know, it gives me a strong physical attacker because that's one thing I needed. I wish this thing got access to momentum. It doesn't. It is what it is, but it's not bad. And like I said, it is one of my favorite Pokemons, one of my favorite shinies on the games. And I did hunt for this thing on my birthday, so this is gonna be Darth Vader, the chosen one. And if you don't get that reference, then I guess you haven't seen the second trilogy of Star Wars, which is probably good. Yeah. Now for my last pick, you know, I only have, I think, 3 points left. I decided to go with another spinner because you can never have two short spinners. I also didn't have a normal type. Not super important this draft because Dragapult and Spectre are not allowed, so Ghost Spam is not the best. However, when you don't have a normal type, your opponents are tempted to have to run Terra Ghost against you, which it can be good and bad. But this guy is not bad. I haven't drafted it since very early on Generation 9, where it did okay. I mean, it checked a Flutter main once in a draft for me, so it was cool. But yeah, I also wanted another chance to use the shiny because this shiny took me a long time to get, man. A shiny, Dream Ball, Sleepy Time, Mark, Kamala was really hard to get, so I like to show it off. So that's gonna be our last pick for this draft. It's gonna be our Aurora, the Sleeping Beauty, which, you know, gives me access to a normal type, knockoff, U-turn, is an status absorber, great Soul Best user, again, rapid spin, gets a good move pool. Maybe we can do some fun stuff with it some weeks when, you know, we're not taking things too serious. But anyways, that is gonna be the team for the Virginia Big Teenies on this season of the SDA. Hopefully things are fun. Hopefully, you know, we are able to have fun and have a competitive but fun season. Anyways, thank you all for watching. We'll see you on the first game when it's posted in a couple days from now. Bye now.